do you say? Yeah, 7 would make me feel better right now.
Let's get Kalaris to talk about this.
Yeah, that'd also be nice. Twisted Minds not having the best of tournament so far. 16th place, 10 points. I think we've seen a lot of these names, but it's a little unfortunate because we've seen Rolkis over in EU.
We have.
Has done great work over there.
He did.
Obviously never on the top of things. Crypto, on the other hand, an amazing player. Real clutch factor coming through from this guy, but they are just not matching up to the weight of the teams in this lobby, which is pretty crushing. There is some incredible teams here at the Pmwi main tournament.
The best teams in the world.
Which is to be expected, honestly. I think we've invited a real good slew of amazing teams that we could probably expect to see through to the PMGC, at least some of them. The majority of them, maybe.
At least 2 of them.
A medium amount.
Maybe 3.
Maybe. And one of these teams will win their region another PMGC slot.
That's true. And I feel like that is, as the desk was talking about earlier, right, that's probably one of the biggest factors here.
It's pretty big.
Is it's going to introduce more, quite frankly, prize pool into the region, allowed for more investment in their region over the long run, not directly, but to indirectly boost that region's longevity would be such an incredible asset.
And if you have a bad tournament, you have a bad PMPL or a championship, and you come second place in the point standings towards PMGC, you still make it in.
True.
So you secure yourself another break point. Because some of these regions, I think they've got 5 slots. So you pull it up to 6, which is really, really nice.
But then you can also suffer from the fall-off factor. You could be an S2G.
The S2G factor.
The S2G factor. The Game Lord factor before that. It can be a real problem when you have these rosters, these teams who come through, perform incredibly well, grab themselves one of these spots. I'm not saying that they underperform because they feel the pressure's off, but they, for some reason, don't do as well as they did in the previous season. Then they turn up to PMGC or to the next global finals, PMWI for S2G, and they just don't perform in the manner that you expect them to. And it takes a real strong-headed team to be able to try and carry that over and ride that wave through, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's a lot of it's a mental task.
Absolutely. And you can make some waves at home on your own PUBG Mobile with winning some of these PMWI special awards, because people will be taken aback with the height of the fashionista you will be with these items. They're only available, though, from July 15th through to August 15th.
You were wearing that yesterday.
I was wearing that yesterday. You couldn't see, but I was all spangled up. I was good to go. Obviously, I wasn't carrying the large weapon around with me.
Light blue's your colour.
It could be. I maybe could pull that off. I did pull it off, actually, yesterday.
Keep it on.
I will. Yes, of course. Fireflux, though, back to the game anyway. Back to the game at hand. Fireflux find themselves another little dip to play around. Tiamba off in the distance.
Those dips that Fireflux currently find themselves in, they're very, very dangerous. The nades just funnel themselves into your pockets.
Yeah, Fireflux is just a tortilla chip team. They love the dips. They love the dips, man. 100%. But it works well. It does work well. They find themselves some good scouting. They don't always stick in these positions for a long while, and then they move on. I think it's quite a good play style. Again, that first 15 minutes is really nice. They obviously have very good knowledge of a lot of these maps, and it's to be expected with Solke being on the team, who has been around in PUBG Mobile for a long time. And I kind of expect Fireflux to continue doing well. I mean, they're at the 4th place at the moment, 37 points, which is fantastic.
Tixi, close to danger. Bensu, the powerhouse of Infinity IQ. Neither of them pulling the trigger. They're playing do-si-do around the car, and Bensu's got the better end of the trade so far. Tixi, overzealous, split from the team, not playing with them, and pays the price.
That is really unfortunate. I think that at the moment, Tixi is probably one of their best mechanical players on the squad. It's really unfortunate losing him, because you lose a big amount of that clutch power on the side. Winning out those fights a lot of times has come down to Tixi making some real good moves. Not as impactful as we've seen him been before, though, John, which is a little bit sad to me. I mean, Tixi supremacy is just not here at the moment.
Tixi mediocrity currently.
I need to stop going back to Gladiators. What? Don't put them back on the screen.
not bad. Well, when they're taking a fight, it's fair enough. But when we're looking at Vampires trying to hold a central position of Fireflux, taking blink shots at the compound, certainly talk about that. D plus Kia send into the Labendita crater, and they might have some neighbors to worry about. Goodness me, Reject Tokyo don't want to let them get away with this one. Fabian is a little bit isolated, but the rest of D plus Kia, they are establishing a high ground, and that is what you want to execute with. Forrest able to suppress that close range position and keep his teammates safe. They send one down in, they lay the trap, and it looks like Reject Tokyo might have just bit.
Yeah, Lufa tries to scrub Forrest off the top side, not able to quite make that one happen though. Forrest finds that cheeky little angle. I think they expected all of them to be heading in towards Labendita crater. Not to be. They gave them the old fake out there. Sunan, 628, taking the shots over towards Geekate. Taking a bit more stock of this circle as well. Hacienda del Patron involved, Saint Martin. So some real big amounts of elevation inside this circle from the eastern side over towards the west. So we are going to cut a lot of these teams off into their own individual battlegrounds for the time being.
6 to 8 again in a pretty solid position. We saw Yang Wan, be a devil in his own right. Tianba able to use the backup with the DBS and the auto shotgun. Really not much you can do about that. Duello goes down. Reiji trying to get away from it. Last player standing for the squad. They were able to get quite a few eliminations. I think it was 8 overall, Blank, in that last Miramar that we just saw. This time around, they're not so lucky. Reject Tokyo, it feels like a team that has always consistently had that chance, but just never quite pushed past the line.
Now, for Reject, I think they've been a consistent esports team making it towards these international events. And
absolutely.
They obviously are performing very well in their region of Japan, but right now, it's not able to put up those performances on international stage. But it's always great to see them here, and I think that the Japanese teams are constantly improving. And I'd say that they probably are at the level of some of the
they deserve to be here.
SEA teams as well as European teams from about a year ago. Because I do think that PUBG Mobile teams in general have just leveled up in such a gigantic way over the past year. It's really crazy. When we've had more and more coaches move in to the scene, providing really valuable knowledge to these teams overall.
Providing infrastructure, I think, or even, well, equally as importantly, right, is providing that infrastructure. When you look at teams that just play with themselves, the players are the ones doing the analysis, doing the coaching, and trying to figure out and execute on these plans. It doesn't have the longevity that having a coach, having a real infrastructure behind a team gives. But you see that with teams like Vampire. Coming into PMWI, they have got that position. Obviously, Satani, we talked to him quite a lot on the English broadcast. We love to hear from him. He's got a lot of valuable insight, and I feel like he's a great staying hand for the roster.
Yeah, I think I said it last year as well, is that he has just brought a bit, and what we kind of need a lot of times is a bit of discipline, because you always hear him, right? They're on to win a lot of cash already.
Absolutely.
But he comes in quite humble every single time. I think that's what he does for his team a lot. He keeps them humble, because you see them in game. They are an aggressive team. They really like to take the highlight. They love being that center of attention in game. But at the end of the day, they still have these moments where they play it slow before they really unleash absolute madness on the lobby towards the end game. And it's difficult to put them down at that point. So it's really, really good to have that person that keeps you grounded a lot of times. 628 still looking over towards GK. 628 haven't moved far at all. We know they like to drop over towards this north side of Picardo in the first place. Didn't transition over to power grid. Circle didn't really require it to happen, but a lot of teams on that side. Alter Ego trying to push their way in. Do find an initial knock. Not much more than that.
It's northwest side. Troublesome. Rosemary isolated on the back. Stripped away there.
Oh, wow.
Taken out of the running. This central ridgeline.
That's a circle and a half.
Is the most important feature in this circle, as generally these ridgelines will be. But yeah, you're right. A lot of open ground nearby.
Yeah, this is going to be like the yin-yang circle, because we will just have a line of players through the middle of this ridge. It can hold a lot of teams in there. Stalwart found initial bit of damage over towards Alpha 7. They have recovered. A nade goes back, and Icy's got to be very careful, because a double nade there's great, but one comes back. Top's on the top side. In fact, Carrillo just has to hug the wall as best he can, become one with the rock here to get that first aid kit off.
Trying to stay alive. The heals need to come through. Icy is far more isolated than the player knocked. I think there's Revo.
Some great nades, actually.
Getting taken down, which means that Icy can't get rezzed. Wow. The numbers are still in the favor of Alpha 7. Top taken low, with the nades over the top bursting perfectly. Mafioso just about tickles the ridge, which stops it going further with the next nade, but looks to put more up there. Can't quite get the angle that they got in the first time, and finally, Nerzed moves in for that res onto Icy. In the meantime, Twisted Minds, third party from the west.
It's a well-placed smoke on the top side, really denies a lot of the sight lines coming through from top, looking down towards this team. And it invalidates this position that top's playing. Action's still playing backstop for them. Nerzed now comes up with a nade of his own, sends it all the way across. There's a little dip that currently Alpha 7 is holding in. They can't step out too much with Twisted Minds on these angles over towards their way. In the meantime, 628 have moved up towards the central area of the ridge. Team Falcon's also there. D plus Kia have sent a couple of players towards that position, or at least just one. It's Favian, last remaining. And Fireflux now need to think about getting in towards the circle, because this is where we do see them start to falter a little bit, get a little bit too concerned with that outer edge. And we know that they have some extremely good splits in the end game. But it's getting towards that position in the first place to start controlling stage 7, stage 8. That's where they're really efficient.
DRS pop a shot over towards Stalwart. Find a little bit of an angle, that northeast side of that setup firing line. As we hop on over to the south edge of the circle. 628 on the high ground with Sunan. Gladiators trying to move in underneath them. And the shadows are treacherous in their own right, with Geek holding out underneath Sunan. The rest of 628 a little bit further forwards, closer to the circle. Falcons, very central.
Box Gaming already pick up one of those knocks over towards Fireflux. It's taken them a while to move away from this position. They tried to set up some form of defense. Lutz goes down, leaving them at 3, and Box Gaming continue to sweep inwards. Fireflux have had a bit of a lackluster defense here. The tepid one. Solus off the distance, will have his vehicle pretty much taken out of the way. The Infinity 2 also looking this way. They're just underneath the compound. A lot of teams would like to head towards if this does go down towards the south. And King, though, goodness me, SLR in hand.
How'd you hit that? Solke was on the broadside, but behind the scope, I believe. Didn't really have the angle and has managed to find some cover. The smoke blooms, there's a rock, there's a ridge. He can stay safe for the time being, but he's going to have to move and likely won't be able to get out of there in its current state. Does get a heal on, and Ketch actually rolls through for the save. Solke and Ketch, though, now main meal on the menu for Falcons as they try and ride strong, but a really solid set of shots from Kitsune to find one and the flush very, very quickly for the Gladiators on the south side. A little bit of an opening maybe on the south.
Yeah, pretty instantaneous here. And again, a lot of teams would like to move their way through on that south side. Schweppes will pick up Solke. They find a bit of shelter. This is a position that can hold these two players for quite some time. Quite difficult to get across that terrain. The fact they were able to make that run under the purview of a lot of teams, not easy. They're swiftly getting towards position, punch the nitro. But Box is following.
PK trying to skirt. Sunan still sits atop the mount, launching Thunderbolt after Thunderbolt downwards and transmitting that information back over to the rest of his team as well. We were looking at this central ridgeline and talking about how treacherous it's going to be. Let's take a look at just how dangerous Fabian can make it for Box Gaming as they try and move on through, but it is so dangerous. But that goes both ways. The sword has two edges, and backwards it cuts. Infinity IQ take down the last player from D plus Kia. Gladiators also coming a cropper.
Yeah, get them caught up. on this south side of the ridge. A lot of sightlines looking their way. 2 players down. I would say it's very unlikely that Matic's able to get both of them up, but you can certainly try, give it a go. Falcons did move further up towards that north side, and Box just sidled in on the east. Vampires yet to move as of yet. They did take down a player from DRS earlier on. Meku is shut down.
Still pretty tricky to call this game. There are so many teams yet to conclude their embroilments. Gladiators will conclude their game here, though. 13th place. Middle of the tables is where they will end their day. 9th place, unlikely to be leapfrogged by Falcons. Currently quite far behind them. The Falcons do have a high ground position. They can run along this ridge line and maybe prove to be troublesome in this lobby overall.
Good shots from Sunan.
Oh.
Satan takes a fall to the depths of hell there.
The first circle only, though, and will be pulled back by GK to the land of the living. Nexa, though, from Falcons might have other ideas. Close enough and in a distance. Look at that. Xing unleashes. Bombards the position, re-knocks it. That's a lot of time now had to invest, and with that time, they have earned the forward position. Sunan and Xing move on in, looking for the execute. Nate's downhill from Falcons as well, as Ferrari goes down.
Teams.
A lot of teams trying to vie for this south high ground.
Vampires taking out players coming through from DRS. Killer notably out. Best player currently on the squad of DRS too, so unideal. Vampires have had eyes towards that position for a long, long while. Waiting for them to make their move. Solke will equally be shut down by the Vampires. They snatch more of these eliminations away, but they will have to move. And I think Fireflux's position is probably one that you would be looking up. Might head over towards that north side as well, as they all jump in towards vehicles.
Fireflux get taken out in that position. Box Gaming on the east side of this mountainous ridge. Will have quite a lot of control there, but they have to get up if they want to get to the west side of the circle at all. They want to have that access. As we hop to the northwest, Stalwart, all 4 players alive. No eliminations though so far. Close to Alpha 7 with one of their own. Just a little bit south of that, also got Alter Ego to worry about, who've managed to rack up 3 eliminations, but they're playing with 3.
Better nothing though, holding on to that second place position. 628. Still going strong down towards the south side despite losing a member. Sunan was split off from the team a long, long while, but constantly providing information back. Finally, the rest of the team did regroup with him. And Alpha 7 will remove Alter Ego. They have been stuck on that position towards the western side for quite some time. Just 2 players left alive for them as Revo falls.
Harassment from Falcons up in their nest atop the mountain. 628 have not been able to dismount them. The high ground just a little bit too unassailable. Maybe not completely, but certainly with the opportunities that they've had. The chance might present itself, though, in the next few minutes as teams start to move a little bit closer to the circle. Box are starting to expand their influence as well.
Vampires just tucking themselves in, actually, on that northern edge. Not to go too far. I think that this is a position where you'd imagine a lot of teams would take up residence, as the circle pushes a lot of the squads that will have squeezed themselves in on that south side forward.
10 teams in stage 6, Blank, almost stage 7. This is really, really close, and these ridge lines are providing sanctuary for teams that most likely you wouldn't see alive at this stage, given any other circle. Tony K spots a DRS player, and they snap up the back line. Lickety split.
Yeah, there's instant clapback coming through from Vampire. And Rule steps a little bit too far backwards and feels the brunt of some of the teams on that northwest edge, like Stalwart, as well as Alpha 7. Carrillo out in the blue, trying to readjust. Meantime, the Stalwart's players, I think that is Action. He's down towards the south, all on his lonesome, really holding up Twisted Minds and the final player from Alpha 7.
Carrillo towards the blue. Needs to be careful. Icy has got the opportunity to swing out should Action get into trouble as well. Circle goes very central here, blank box. We'll be able to hold out all these teams on the south. Well, they'll certainly have the chance to. Vampire probably looking pretty good to try and push on in if they can get past DRS's sightlines.
I think DRS is a little bit preoccupied with Stalwart, currently taking that 2-2 split on the northwest edge to deal with Twisted Minds, Alpha 7 and DRS. So I think for Vampire, taking a long stroll up the slope to perhaps try and third party versus this would be a really smart idea. Currently Box Gaming though, they're about to get a whole heap of eliminations if they play this one right. As a lot of these players on the south side will have to drop off from their high ground down towards Box Gaming sightlines. Scary prospect.
Okay, trying to move past, but AXA has other ideas.
Wow.
The pump action. This late in the game, still having that in the arsenal is a risk, but it's going to work out here. Falcons hold out a push, and still there's more to do as GK Esports trying to stop the push from the south of 628. AXA continues his bombardment, his barrage of bullets as they roll downhill. Unfortunately, his teammates not so lucky. His opponents either. 628 moving through, swelling the ground on the south side.
Just to put that in perspective as well, AXA had to miss 0 shots on that SG to make that happen.
Yang's got plenty more shells to unleash from the auto shotgun here, though. And it will be good for 2 knocks. Falcons dismounted. And now 628 can play on with 3. We saw what they could do on the Erangel. Can they in the previous map on the Miramar, can they convert it this time around?
The 3-man 628 buff. There's no 3 in their esports title. There's certainly 3 in the game here, and they're doing fairly good work. Infinity still alive. Vampires have now taken control of that northern side. If they win out this game, they will have found themselves a massive buffer going into day 2. It feels like a repeat of the All-Stars. Finished that first day off with 78 points. Bear in mind, there was a lot more eliminations available with the 18 teams in the All-Stars. So can they break their own record on a day 1? Already up to 5 eliminations. An extremely good spot for themselves. Finding Yang 1-2.
Wow. Really, really solid stuff from the north side. Stalwarts drawn a little bit short here. A knock sent their way as well. They're grouped up. They don't really have any forward position. They will have quite a lot of info over the ground, and it's quite a flat area that they have to push across. Vampire also going to have to breach that ridgeline. Who's going to be able to get forwards first? Get that stranglehold over this next part of the circle. Stalwart cut apart. There's 3 players from 628. Take aim.
Xing finds Ravenclaw from Vampires though, and Bensu, once again, that powerhouse from Infinity IQ, will pick up one of the players from Box who have just not held on to this spot very well. Stoned is sent back as they res their player, Ravenclaw, and Stalwart will be finally forced out of the blue, and I think Vampire most likely will turn a lot of their attention over towards Stalwart. In the meantime, 628 descend upon the guys from Box.
They need to take care of the threat from downhill should they want to move forwards. Boyga and Bensu for Infinity IQ. Trying to play even further below that. Another shot sent over towards Stalwart and another knock from a nade on Vampire's squad. Flushes coming through, and Vampires can really start to isolate this team now. Very, very difficult to move forwards with the threat of Stalwart there, but once they have removed that, they can start to march in. Icy falls next, and the Vampires yet to lose a player.
628 dastardly daring in this lobby at the moment. They're just taking fights all over the place.
Oh.
A lovely nade over the top will do a good amount of damage, and just top remaining now.
Not long for it, I'd imagine. The blue zone will push him in if nothing else. 3 seconds until it goes in. The fire not quite touching him there. He does get lit up. Has to hit the deck and go for another heal there. Doesn't really have anything left in the back pocket. Action crawling forwards, trying to get info. And Vampire need to move in along this ridgeline to stop 628 from getting control, Blank.
Luckily for Vampires, it's such open ground that a lot of these teams have to push towards, but they have been lacking on these elimination points, and 628 is lapping them up themselves.
Stalwart finally taken down. No further will they go. Gosu from underneath does damage, but no more than that. Yang Won stays alive. Vampire get the final knocks there, the final points. 2 teams now remain, and there's knocks already. Jing trying to stay alive, but Vampire looking to shroud the lobby in darkness, and they'll be able to take everybody down. From the northern side, they play slow, they play efficient, and they devastate the lobby. 20 points on the final game of the day, and their day 1 here mirrors that of the All-Stars, Blank.
Goodness me. They go for the 3-peat, and now the repeat on the day 1 of All-Stars. 78 points accrued total. I mean, that is perfection, right? That's the way you want to start it. Satani probably told them, can you just do what you did on day 1? They were like, exactly what we did on day 1? No. Just do what you did on day 1 in terms of strength and power. Okay, we'll get the exact same point. It's absolutely fine. That is ridiculous coming out from Vampires. What a way to end it.
That was a masterclass of terrain control, of biding your time until the right opportunity presents itself. They saw a Stalwart player go down. They just kept that pressure up, and then they moved when they needed to. That's what I've praised them for so far today, over the course of the All-Stars as well. And I'd love to see it come through in the final game of the day.
Man, you can't count out 6-8 as well.
True.
That was ridiculous stuff coming through from them. I didn't quite catch the amount of eliminations they had at the end, but they were blasting out of their minds. That 3-player buff for 6-8 really coming in clutch for them. I just wonder what they could do with 4 players at the end of the day. What is your final
Whoa, don't be ridiculous. That would be
too much,
That
right?
would be unnecessary. Either way, we are going to close out the day. We're going to go over to the desk after a short break. Thank you so much for watching. That's Vampire Esports showing us exactly what they're made of. We'll see you in a bit.